Stay tuned for commentary based on the Book of Ecclesiastes after the news. Headline: California firefighters make gains ahead of strong winds. Firefighters across Southern California made progress on Saturday battling a slew of scattered wildfires that have killed at least one person, destroyed hundreds of buildings, and forced more than 200,000 people from their homes this week. As the dry Santa Ana winds that have fueled the blazes abated slightly, officials lifted evacuation orders for parts of Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, and crews started getting the upper hand in containing some major fires. But with the National Weather Service expecting a pickup in top wind velocity to 55 miles per hour on Sunday from 40 miles per hour, the 8,700 firefighters battling 6 fast-moving blazes were under pressure to work quickly. Quote, "We're far from being out of the woods on any of them," end quote. Ken Pimlott, director of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, told a news briefing in Ventura. Headline: UN says missiles fired at Saudi Arabia have common origin. United Nations officials have found that missiles fired at Saudi Arabia by Yemen's Houthi rebels appear to have a common origin, but they are still investigating U.S. and Saudi claims that Iran supplied them, according to a confidential report. The officials traveled to Saudi Arabia to examine the debris of missiles fired on July 22nd and November 4th, wrote UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in the 4th biannual report on the implementation of UN sanctions and restrictions on Iran. They found, quote, that the missiles had similar structural and manufacturing features which suggest a common origin, end quote, said Guterres in the Friday report to the UN Security Council. The report comes amid calls by the United States for Iran to be held accountable for violating UN Security Council resolutions on Yemen and Iran by supplying weapons to the Houthis. Saudi-led forces, which back the Yemeni government, have fought the Iran-allied Houthis in Yemen's more than two-year-long civil war. Saudi Arabia's crown prince has described Iran's supply of rockets to the Houthis as, quote, direct military aggression, end quote, that could be an act of war. Headline: Iraq declares final victory over Islamic State. Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi declared final victory over Islamic State on Saturday after Iraqi forces drove its last remnants from the country, 3 years after the militant group captured about a third of Iraq's territory. The announcement comes 2 days after the Russian military announced the defeat of the militants in neighboring Syria, where Moscow is backing Syrian government forces. Iraqi forces recaptured the last areas still under Islamic State control along the border with Syria, the military said. Quote, "Honorable Iraqis, your land has been completely liberated. The dream of liberation is now a reality," end quote, Abadi said in a televised address. He was speaking with 5 Iraqi flags and dozens of servicemen from different branches behind him. Quote, "We have accomplished a very difficult mission. Our heroes have reached the final strongholds of Daesh and purified it. The Iraqi flag flies high today over all Iraqi lands." Headline: 2 dead in Gaza after Jerusalem declaration. 2 Palestinians were killed Saturday in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, the Palestinian Health Ministry said, as tensions rose in the region after U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The Israel Defense Forces said aircraft had targeted what it identified as 4 facilities belonging to Hamas early Saturday in response to rockets fired into southern Israel from Gaza. The aircraft targeted 2 weapons manufacturing sites, a weapons warehouse, and a military compound, according to an IDF statement. The 2 Palestinians killed were men 27 and 30 years old. The IDF said Israeli aircraft had also struck a Hamas training compound and ammunition warehouse late Friday in Gaza. One of the rockets fired from Gaza landed in the Israeli city of Sarat, according to the IDF. There was no mention of Headline: Trump hails civil rights heroes. President Donald Trump paid tribute Saturday to the leaders and foot soldiers of the civil rights movement whose sacrifices helped make the United States a fairer and more just country, though protests surrounding his visit to Mississippi laid bare the stark divisions among Americans about his commitment to that legacy. Trump's remarks steer clear of addressing the anger that his participation had sparked leading up to the dedication. In a deliberate voice and rarely diverting from his prepared words, the president sought to honor the famous and anonymous for their efforts on behalf of freedom for all. Quote, "The Civil Rights Museum records the oppression, cruelty, and injustice inflicted on the African American community, the fight to bring down Jim Crow and end segregation, to gain the right to vote, and to achieve the sacred birthright of equality," he said. Folks, those are the stories that matter this day, December 10th, 2017. Please hold for commentary based on the Book of Ecclesiastes. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 9 and 10, we read, and I'm going to read from the NIV today, "You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. So then, banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are meaningless." Read a story or saw a post or something this week about a celebrity who has announced that they are going to raise their child gender neutral. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, what they intend to do. It sounds like if the child is showing, traditional tendencies of a girl, they'll discourage her from doing that, or vice versa. If it's a boy and showing tendencies of a traditional boy, that they would discourage that. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it sounds like they are going to impose something on the child. It also reminded me of a time, and I guess when my children were first born, when they were young, and the rush or the pressure to find the right preschool. And I remember reading stories about, wealthier parents actually just like stressing over getting the right preschool for their 4-year-old, and being upset if they couldn't get them in and they're going to be behind and so forth. I've also coached Little League and mini football for a number of years, and I've seen and experienced the crushing demands that parents can put on their children. And I've seen the joy of sports, competitive sports, just be destroyed by parents who are either you have two types of parents. Either you have the parent who insists that their child is the next superstar, and they're just going to, make sure that they train every day and they, do whatever they have to do to be that next superstar. And if they need to, bully a coach or bully a referee or something, they're going to do that for the child. Or it's the overprotective parent who just doesn't want the child to lose and have hurt feelings. There's pressure, on children and teenagers to do well in school and get into the right college. And I think we're seeing so much coming out today, teen suicide, and which has always been around, but teen anxiety and all this kind of stuff has always been around, but it just seems to be intensified. Children who are experiencing so much stress, and it is troubling. It is absolutely troubling. And these two verses came to mind when I saw that post and when I saw that story, and just reminded me of a whole other, a bunch of other things. But when it really came to mind, actually, was earlier this year, in the aftermath of the incident at Charlottesville. After the white nationalist parade, and the young man, I think he was 19 years old, who drove the car into the protesters, killing a young woman. And when I read that, or saw that on YouTube or whatever, wherever I got the news, again, I went right back to these two verses, and my God, what have we done to our youth when a 19-year-old boy, I know technically he's an adult, but he's still young, he's still a youth, and how can he be filled with so much hate and rage that he sees it as okay to drive a car into a group of people and kill someone at the age of 19? His entire life is gone, has been thrown away. For what? For what? What have we filled these minds with? And I'm not just talking hate. I'm just talking pressure and anxiety. What are we doing to our children? I grew up and still live in northeastern Pennsylvania, which was built on coal. There's more coal mines in our areas than you can count. Both my grandfathers were coal miners. They both emigrated here from Poland and went right to work in the mines. So many families were just built and raised on coal. Now, being born in '63, I was, my childhood saw the decline, the beginning of the decline of coal, and then it wasn't long before all the mines were shut, and we had coal miners had to find other work. But in the heyday of coal mining, we had what were called breaker boys. I'm going back to the early 1900s. They were probably still around, probably during the Second World War in the 40s. But breaker boys these were 7, 8 years old, and they were working in the mines. And they were there breaking coal, hauling coal up, 7 and 8 years old. My God, that's their childhood. And we have evolved as a society to bring those children out of that. But even though we've lifted children out of child labor, and we've got them out of the sweatshops, and we got them out of the coal mines in America, what have we replaced that with? Now, I have always been extraordinarily grateful for the childhood I had. It was idyllic. I believe I grew up in the perfect small town in the country. It's called Sawyersville, Pennsylvania. It was just an idyllic small town. I loved my childhood. Summers were baseball and hiking, and fall we played football, and we were just outside all the time. Summertime, 10 a.m., we're gone out of the house. We at 6 o'clock or 6 o'clock, the church bells rang, and you can hear the church bells ring throughout the whole town, and that's when you knew, we gotta get home for dinner. There's no cell phones, no pressure on parents to find out where we were every second. We rode our bikes through town, and that was a childhood. That was a childhood, and what have we done? What have we replaced that with? My childhood was so carefree. We just had fun, which is exactly what childhood should be. Yes, during school you paid attention, you studied, you got your good grades, and you made your plans. But my God, Saturday mornings were cartoons, and then get out of the house and go play. But now, my God, what are we doing to our kids? We're putting on so much pressure for them to succeed, to do well in school, to get the right college, and so forth. I have two girls and two boys. Both my daughters are just extremely bright. One going for her PhD right now. The other graduated summa cum laude from her college and found a job right away. They're both doing extremely well. I'm so extraordinarily proud of them. And if this was 20 years ago, that's exactly what my plan was. Get to school, get homework done, get a better grade than what you got last time, study, work, get the right college, and so forth. Then my two sons, are just completely different. Now, they're both bright, but they just never took to school. You can't stand school. They graduated and no interest in college. Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have been freaking out on them. So what do you mean? You are going to college. Just get your mind straight, and you're going to college, and you're going to study this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to graduate, and you're going to get this job, and you're going to be successful in life. Somewhere along the way, and I'm sure my being saved back in 2011 had a lot to do with this, but I just gave that up. We have put too much pressure, and that pressure has also caused so many other problems. The reason there's so much student debt is because we put so much pressure on our next generation that you got to go to college, forgetting that college is not for everybody. And college is not this panacea. College is not this magic thing that's going to make you successful in life. And colleges have run with that. They've created all-inclusive resorts to attract students. And they've run up their tuition, far outpacing even healthcare increases. And we just keep giving them money and giving them money. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. I don't want to do that. But getting back to the topic at hand. So my sons went out into the workforce right from high school. Now my youngest, he says, he just wants to take some time and he'll probably go to college. That's fine. My other son said he does want to, pursue something. He's just not sure yet. And again, I'm perfectly happy with that. They work hard. They're working 6 days a week. They save their money, and they're doing well at what they do. They're both respected and appreciated where they work. And I refuse to put pressure on any of my kids. If my sons stay at the exact same job they're doing now for the rest of their lives and they're happy, that's what I care about. If my daughters suddenly said, I want to give this up and I want to do something else, and if that is what's going to make them happy, that's what I'm concerned about. These last few verses in Ecclesiastes 11 are so important, and I think we ignore them at our peril. I think this ridiculous notion of all this pressure we're putting on kids, it is manifesting itself in so many different ways. Anxiety, unwanted pregnancies. We have left them searching for things. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that, we may have stolen their childhoods. Let kids be kids. Let them enjoy their childhood. They know they got to get to work. They know they got to study or do whatever they need to do. That's going to come at them, fast enough and hard enough in life that they need to do that. But if we're pressuring 8-year-olds to swing a bat the right way, if we're pressuring 10-year-old girls to, you got to study this and you got to be better at this, Now, I'm not saying let them go on their own and just be a free for all and whatever happens, what happens. And discipline is important. Like I've always said, discipline is good, control is not. So you set the parameters, you set them boundaries, but you gotta let them enjoy their lives, enjoy their childhood. Adulthood is coming fast enough. You only get 18 years of childhood, and you got another 60 or 70 as an adult. So let these kids enjoy their youth. Let's stop putting pressure on them. Let me read the verses one last time. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 9 and 10. You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. So then, banish anxiety from your heart, and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are meaningless. Folks, those are my thoughts this week. I thank you so much for being with me. Do not have a great day. Get out there and make it a great day. I'll talk to you soon.